In the late 50s, our offices were on Madison Avenue in New York City, and we were just a bunch of guys getting together, creating new characters to use as comic book superheroes. And we were enjoying what we did, and we liked the fact that the readers seemed to enjoy what we did also, because we got a ton of fan mail. And occasionally, some of the fan mail came from rather celebrated people. One day, while I was at my office, the receptionist called back and said, "Stan, there's a few people here to see you." I said, "Who are they?" She said, "Well, I don't know their name, but the head one seems to be Felony or..." I said, "Wait, you don't mean Fellini?" She said, "Oh yeah, I think that's what it was." I said, "Fred Fellini is out there to see me?" She said, "Yes, with a few other people." I said, "Show him in." I think he was a fan of the comics. And that interested Fellini, just as it interested Alain Resnais later on. I remember one day, I couldn't believe it, there was a letter from Alain Resnais, the great French director. I answered him immediately, and we became kind of friends back and forth through the mail, and the next thing I knew, he told me he was going to come to the United States and wanted to meet me. I could hardly believe it. I was thrilled. Alain and I became very, very close friends. He stayed in the United States for a while. Actually, he lived at our house. We had a home in Long Island and a little guest house, and he stayed in the guest house. My wife loved him, and I loved him. He was a great guy. The one thing about him that we always got a laugh out of, he was always wearing a red shirt. It didn't matter what else he wore, he had a red shirt on. And we never knew, is he wearing the same red shirt and washing it every night, or does he have dozens of red shirts? Well, the funny thing is, he actually talked me into writing a screenplay about pollution, the evils of it. And I did. Took me about 3 weeks. I'm a fast writer, and that was the most I had ever spent on any one story. I think it was called The Monster Maker. I just remember. That was the title of the script. The Monster Maker. The Monster Maker was more or less based in the beginning. I started out by basing it on a fellow named Roger Corman, who had done many inexpensive movies that did very well at the box office. They weren't intellectual movies. They were low budget, very interesting, and he did well with them. So I decided to get a character and make him like a Roger Corman. And he's in love with a girl who's part of his staff. But she has higher ambitions. She meets a man who turns out intellectual movies, philosophical stories. He doesn't make any money, his movies don't get produced, but he talks like he's a big thinker. There is also a girl in the story who loves the hero and appreciates what he does, and he doesn't notice her. He doesn't realize that she's the perfect girl for him. So those were the characters and the situation. Resnais was really a pleasure to work with. He was always thinking of new story plots and how to fix them and make them better. So we'd be having coffee somewhere, or we'd go to a little restaurant, and we'd be talking about, well, we could open up the movie this way, and this could take place in the climax. And of course, the hero will suddenly realize that that little script girl was the right girl for him, and the girl who was looking for the big intellectual is going to find out he was a lot of talk and nothing else. But Alain was so wrapped up in what he did, and he envisioned everything, every scene. It was thrilling being with him and discussing these things. Suddenly I was working with someone who made movies, and I was just a guy doing comic books, so it was thrilling for me. And we needed a place to film it if we were going to shoot it in my area, in America, Long Island. So Alain did some research, and he wandered around the city, around New York, and he finally found a place that he said was perfect. An island in the East River at Manhattan called Rat Island. And he said it was filthy and dirty and overgrown, and it was perfect. And I was so ashamed. I have lived here all my life. I had never heard of Rat Island. Here's a guy who comes from France, been here a few days, and finds the perfect place for the film, a place I had never heard of. So we were going to film it on Rat Island. Well, what we were planning to do, we were going to take Rat Island, and we were actually going to show that all the pollution in Rat Island comes together and becomes like a monster. So all of a sudden, it's like one of the monster movies that our hero had been producing for years. But this time, the monster is created by pollution, and our hero would have to find a way to combat it. And we had many conversations about how to make that very symbolical and how to make it very philosophical, and you'd look at that and you'd imagine something else. There was a big production company called Filmways. It was run by a man named Martin Ransohoff. And we took the screenplay I had written to Martin Ransohoff at Filmways, and he read it. He said, I love it, it's great, I want to do it. But of course, you've got to cut about 1/3 of all the dialogue in the scenes. I had never done a motion picture script before, so I had much too much dialogue and too many scenes. The thing would have cost $1 billion to produce. So I said, okay, I'll shorten it, I'll make it shorter. And Alain went, Stan will not touch a word of it. I said, what are you talking about? He said, it is perfect the way it is. He didn't want me to cut it. Well, Martin wouldn't do it unless it was cut, so we never did the film. Well, when you talk about Alain René's passion for comics, it wasn't so much a passion for comics. Alain was always looking to open up new avenues of storytelling, to do it in different ways. And what he really wanted was to direct a movie about Spider-Man. He loved the character. Alain was an innovator, and he didn't want to follow what everybody else had done. If he had done Spider-Man, it would not have been like a normal superhero story. And it's a shame he never did a superhero story. I would have loved to have seen it. I don't normally do these kind of interviews anymore. I'm asked to do interviews every day about this one, that one. But I really loved Alain, and I'm glad I had a chance to do this.